So hello everyone, it's Catherine, the Resource Manager, and I'm here to talk to you about some handheld technology. So with handheld technology, what I'm talking about are smartphones and tablets. And a lot of the questions I get asked first are, do I need a specialist phone? The answer is you don't need a specialist phone. There are specialist phones that make things easier if you struggle. But every modern smartphone now has assistive technology built in. So they all have magnifiers and screen readers. And smartphones are really useful. I'm currently watching our event just to make sure all the sound's working on mine whilst I'm sitting here on the event. So you can do an awful lot with a smartphone, and you can do it if you have sight, if you have no sight, if you have some sight. You just need to access it in a different way. So on an iPhone there is VoiceOver, and what VoiceOver does is it turns every interaction you use, so every time you touch your phone or your iPad, it speaks out to you. So you can navigate throughout the entire phone without having to be able to see what's on it. There are also some gestures to help you move around more quickly. And I was helping someone the other day and they had the new iPhone without a home button. And you can still do everything you need to. There are just a few different gestures than if you were used to using an iPhone with a home button. So please do feel free to type any questions that you have in, and I will endeavour to answer them for you, whether they be about Apple or Android. That's what we're talking about today. So also on both Apple and Android, there are ways you can talk to your phone to get your phone to do things without you having to interact by touching the screen or by typing. On Apple, it's called Siri. On an Android, it would either be Google Assistant, or if you've got a specific phone, so Samsung's got its own one, and I think some of the other Android phones do as well, but Google Assistant will be on all of them. Apple and Android, again, as I said, have made it really easy to interact with your phone. But there are still some things that are a little bit difficult to do. So we're going to talk about some apps, and because David's been telling us about languages, what's really good, if you know a bit of the language, you might know the spoken language, but not necessarily be able to understand the written language. So there's an app called, I'm going to say specifically Google Translate. There are other ones around. But with Google Translate, as long as it is typed text rather than handwritten, you can take a picture of any text and it will translate it for you. It won't be as good as if David had done it for us. You can do it with hand. Yeah. So yeah, it wouldn't be as good as if David had actually translated it for us, because it is a machine doing it. And you can, if you've got someone who speaks only Spanish and you speak only English, you can speak through Google Translate on a smartphone or tablet, or French or Chinese, specifically any of the specific Chinese languages, German, I won't say any, most languages you can translate from one to the other. And specifically if it's a language with a different character set, Google Translate will do that for you. So one of the other apps, so Google Translate is available on both Android and Apple, which means it's a really good cross-platform app. It works on both sides. One of my favourite Apple apps is Seeing AI, because what it does... Jennifer, I have just spotted your question. I'll go back and answer that one. So yes, Google Translate is a free app. It's made by Google, doesn't cost anything. If you're going abroad, you're better off to download the language packs before you go abroad. Otherwise, you're trying to find data to do the translation, but you can download them and have full offline translation mode. So, where else? I was going, Seeing AI, my favourite Apple app. So, I'm sitting in the Resource Centre and I'm surrounded by lovely pieces of technology, and off to my right, just out of screen, is a desktop text-to-speech machine. So it is a very large computer on the bottom. It's got an arm that goes up and it's got a camera sitting on the top. Seeing AI replaces that machine, because what it does is it takes a picture of any printed text and it translates it into spoken text. And it does this in a couple of different modes. There's the quick mode where you just point it at something and it reads as it goes along. And there is document mode where you take it over the page, you take a picture of the whole page, and it then translates that into spoken. It also puts it up as text on screen, which you can then output into something else. So it does two different features. So I know quite a few of you will have Seeing AI, but it's still my favourite app. Do let me know what other apps you think are really useful, and we'll talk about them as well. The other ones that I like to use are things like navigation apps. So again, different on Apple and Android. On Apple, you've got built in your Apple Maps, and you can use Siri to interact directly with that. So if you've told it where you live, you can, when you get off a bus and it's a different bus stop because your bus stop's been closed for some reason, you're not sure where you are, you can say, Siri, take me home, or navigate me home, and it will tell you directions of how to get home. On Android, it would be Google based rather than Apple based. So on Android, you've got Google Maps, and again, you can use Google Assistant to navigate you to places. You have to make sure you set your default navigation mode, otherwise it will assume you're driving everywhere, which can lead to some very interesting trips that it tries to take you on if it wants you to get on a motorway. Yeah?
We've got a question. What does CRA mean?
CRA.
Or CII? CRI.
Seeing AI.
Yes.
Was that it? So it's seeing as in looking, so SEEING, and then AI for artificial intelligence. So it is using artificial intelligence, a computer, to translate that text into speech instead of you handing it to someone and asking them to translate it. Another one of my apps that I really like is called Be My Eyes. Be My Eyes works from two sides. As a visually impaired person, it uses your camera to connect you to someone with sight who will assist you. So as someone, myself, without sight loss, I am a Be My Eyes volunteer. So I can get a phone call from someone with sight loss, and it's a video phone call, and I can help them with what they're trying to do. It might be, is this milk in my fridge out of date? It could be, are my socks matching? I do know of some people who have had very long sessions with people. They might have helped them with their shopping when they're out. Can you just tell me what colour this top is I've picked up? And they go, oh, that doesn't really suit you. How about you go three aisles down? I've spotted something in the background of your video camera. But if you're going to use one of these Be My Eyes volunteers for any length of time above about 5 minutes, just pre-warn them that you think this is going to be a longer session, because the idea behind it is what's called micro-volunteering. It's a way of people volunteering without spending a lot of time doing it. And the really nice fact about Be My Eyes, there are more than 10 times as many volunteers as there are people using the app. Be My Eyes is available on both Apple and Android. It's a cross-platform app, so as long as you have a smartphone, it will work. You can also install it on a tablet, but there's a little bit of a workaround you have to do to make it work. I did mention earlier that there are some phones that are a little bit more specific. So I'm going to talk about synaptic phones. So synaptic phones I view as a way of getting into using a smartphone. They take the idea of a very basic brick phone, the old-fashioned mobiles that just had numbers on them and a little screen. They're a little step up. They are still a smartphone, but you run your finger down the screen and it tells you what's under your finger, and you let go and it takes you to do that. So they're very much, they hold your hand through the whole process. So it might be, you're thinking of doing an email, you go down to the email stage and let go. You then go down the next screen and it goes, inbox, new email, and you go, I want a new email, and you let go. It then brings up a to field and you can look in your contacts and fill it in. And with all smartphones, you can use your voice to talk to them rather than using the keyboard that pops up to type. Little caveat with that, speech to text is wonderful when it works. It doesn't always recognise everything perfectly the first time. So you might need to take a little bit of time going through and editing it. If it's to your friends and they're aware that you're using speech to text, don't worry. Most of us are really good at figuring out what people are trying to say. But if you're doing it on something a little bit more businessy or precise, where you have to make sure you're really saying what you want to, always make sure you check what's been typed in by your voice rather than relying on it. So really, any questions, type them in. I would love to answer all your questions about smart technology. I have been talking mainly about phones. You can do all of this on a tablet. A tablet now is basically a big phone. It doesn't make phone calls, it doesn't do text messages, but apart from that, it's the same. It does everything that your smartphone can without having the limitations of the size of the screen. So if I'm watching videos, it will be on my tablet, not on my smartphone, because there's a bigger screen. Often because they're physically bigger, they have better battery lives, and they would have better speakers in them. So if you have hearing problems, generally a smartphone, a tablet will have a better quality speaker. And always remember, a lot of modern smartphones now have got away with a headphone jack. They've got rid of them because apparently a wired headphone is old school technology and we all need to be using Bluetooth. I know a lot of people with hearing aids find using Bluetooth difficult because of the latency and having yet another thing in their ears. Some very high-end hearing aids can connect directly to smartphones on their Bluetooth. And that is, I think that's quite clever, but it is very high-end hearing aids. It's probably not the ones you're going to get off the NHS. Any questions? Anyone in the room? David, do you have any questions? You're sitting over there.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, that's fine, don't worry.
I think everyone's really happy with what they're hearing, Catherine.
So remember, here at Croydon Vision, I'm trying to give you an overview for an idea of what there is available. If you need more specific help, you're better to come in and see myself at Croydon Vision, just so that I can give you specific one-on-one help, because I can tell you how to do things, but unless you can get your hands on the technology, sometimes you don't know if it's the right thing for you. We do have an iPhone, an Android phone, an iPad, and an Android tablet in Croydon Vision where you can play around with them. You can get your hands on them. You can see if it is the right piece of technology for you. And Bluetooth. Okay, so Bluetooth, I've just seen your comment, Maxine. Bluetooth is short distance wireless connections. So it's between something like an input device and your piece of technology, or an output device and your piece of technology. So you might have Bluetooth headphones, you might have a Bluetooth speaker, that's output, or you might have a Bluetooth keyboard, that's input, or you can get Bluetooth braille displays if you're a brailler. So you can connect a braille display directly to your phone. So instead of typing, which is quite inaccurate on the little screen keyboard, or speaking, which we just said is a little bit hit and miss, you can type in braille if you know braille, and it puts it straight in, and that's really clever. But Bluetooth, setting it up, is knowing how to pair things together and making sure that you've got your connection connecting directly with the device and making sure they know about each other, rather than the fact that they are a little bit disconnected. So with a keyboard, it always pops up a little code on the screen where you then have to type in the code on the keyboard to connect them. With headphones, it has to connect a little Headphones don't tend to have a code, they tend to work really nicely, but you have to pop them into pairing mode, so you have to usually press a button until it beeps, or some lights flash different colours, and then it goes into pairing mode and it will connect with the other device, so the phone and the headphones will connect. You usually pop whatever you're connecting to from your, I'm going to say phone for ease. You put whatever you're connecting from, so your headset, your keyboard, your speakers, I'm sure there are lots of other things that I can't think of at the moment, into pairing mode. And then on your phone, you have to go into the Bluetooth settings and find what you're pairing with and connect. I hope that answers your questions, Maxine. I know it doesn't tell you exactly how to use Bluetooth, but exactly how you're going to have to come in and see me so I can help you one-on-one. Because I think you use an Android, but I can't tell you exactly. Thank you very much, Anna. Anna's just told me that the new Apple iPad, iPad or iPhone, I think she said iPod Pro, has a hearing aid feature. So I will need to have a look into that, but my imaginings from that would be it's a way of making hearing aids interact better with them. But thank you for letting me know, Anna, that's really useful. And just really don't feel afraid of smart technology. It's not scary. Really, a smartphone and a tablet has been designed in such a way that it's interactive. It helps you to use it, and the more you use your smartphone, tablet, the more you know how to use it, because it's meant to be intuitive. You're not meant to have to think about it. Unlike with a computer where you've got all these things that you have to use to help you interact with the device, you interact with a smartphone or a tablet with your finger. So there's nothing between you and what you're interacting with. It's really a lot simpler. Even simpler. It helps you to feel more connected. iPhones aren't scary. I will say everyone finds they either like the way iPhones work or they like the way Android works. iPhone has a very rigid structure. It makes you interact in the way in which Apple has designed you will interact. It is very strict, it is very rigid, which in terms of accessibility means that most things are accessible on an iPhone, because they have to be designed to these really rigid strictures. If you're on an Android, because it's a lot more free-flowing and easy, and you can download that app for that or that app for that, and you can really customize the way in which you interact with your phone, accessibility is a little more, or much more hit and miss, because there aren't the tight strictures that you do have on Apple phones. But I know people, you get your hands on one and you either do or don't like Apple, and you either do or don't like Android, and it's a really personal choice. So don't ever feel that you should go one way or the other way. And I've just seen Glenn's comment, the difference between Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Or you like to make me explain things. So Bluetooth works in a really, really small area. So when Bluetooth was first on the market, if you had a Bluetooth headset in your ears and your phone in your pockets, that was about the limit of how far you could get away from your device. And even then it didn't always work perfectly. Wi-Fi is much further ranging, but also Wi-Fi is what gets you onto the internet. So Bluetooth is a device-to-device connection, so input or output to smart device. Wi-Fi is a little box that sits in your corner broadcasting a signal that you connect either your computer, your television, your smartphone, your tablet, your heating, your Amazon device, I can't say her name because she's sitting in the room, or your Google Mini, or any microwave, kettle. You can connect lots of things to Wi-Fi, but they're all connecting to the internet, and then you are interacting with them, rather than they are connecting to each other. So for instance, if you have a smart plug, your smart plug connects to the internet via Wi-Fi, your phone connects to the internet via Wi-Fi, and then your phone interacts with your smart plug. I hope, Glenn, that answers your question. If not, I will try and explain it in a different way. And yeah, so Wi-Fi, you have to have a signal coming into the building you're in, that then the Wi-Fi signal is broadcast. So you have to have internet in the building for Wi-Fi to be broadcast, whereas Bluetooth is a connection between two devices. It doesn't require anything else apart from those two devices. I know you used to be able to, I don't think you can anymore, transfer files via Bluetooth from one device to another. I think they've changed that now to use what's called near-field communication. We'll talk about near-field communication. So, smartphones have the ability to use payment processes. So you can pay with your phone rather than paying with a card or anything else. That uses it's called NFC. They're the initials. We won't worry too much what they stand for. And what that is a very short distance, as in touching distance, communication. And you've already pre-put your card details on your phone, and then you have to activate it in whichever security method you have set up. So on my Android phone, I have to use my fingerprint. I pop my phone to the card reader, and it takes the money off of the card I have preloaded onto the phone. So it's just the card details on the phone, and then magically it takes those card details and takes the payment for you. So that's another thing that a smartphone can do for you. It means that you can, as long as you have your phone on you, you've got a method of paying for something. It works on buses, it works in shops, it works on transport. It works most places in the UK that has a contactless reader, which is a lot more places now than there was 3 months ago. And that is either Apple Pay or Android Pay or Samsung Pay. They've all got a different name. They all work the same way. They just have a connection that's different the other end that we don't have to worry about. Sorry, I've got dust. So yeah, any other questions that I can help with about handheld and sort of a bit more computery this time rather than technology?
I think they're looking very satisfied with your answers there.
We'll give you a little bit more time, and if not, that was what I was going to talk about today.
What do you prefer, Catherine? iPhone or Android?
For my personal preference, I'm an Android all the way.
Yes.
I like the ability to modify it and do it exactly as I want. In terms of accessibility, though, I would have to say that Apple still wins. And I hate saying that as someone who loves Android. I think a lot of us in Croydon Vision at the moment are a bit more of an Android fan than an Apple fan. But remember, we can all help you with both Apple and Android, especially if it's things like helping you onto the Wi-Fi.
Brilliant. We've got to thank you, Catherine. Very informative from Jennifer here.
Okay, so I'm just going to wrap up there. And
we just had another comment from Anna. She doesn't like Apple. She cannot get along with Apple. Anna, I completely understand. Apple's not my favourite either.
Yeah, if you don't think in the way that Apple thinks you should think, you're stuck with Apple. You can't change it. You have to think in their very specific way of thinking. But if you do think that way, that's the way it works.
Oh, we've got Maxine. She prefers an Android here. Got a question from Glenn.
Oh, Glenn. Okay, so Glenn says, do you think smartphones have made us less aware of our surroundings, i.e. people texting whilst walking? Yes. And I would have to put my hand up and say I'm very bad and I do that. But I did also used to walk along the road reading a book. So I've swapped an old piece of technology for a new piece of technology. I've always been very bad at looking at my surroundings. I think a lot of people do walk around texting, and especially with people who are visually impaired, that makes your life less easy because you're not spotted and people walk into you. I'd say I did hear, I think it was in the Netherlands, they had implemented new traffic light systems where instead of having the lights up on the other side of the road or up on the same side of the road as you, they had red and green strips in the floor. So that whilst you were sitting looking at your smartphone or standing looking at your smartphone waiting for the lights to change, you could also see them on the floor. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think really when crossing the road we should be paying attention. We shouldn't be looking at our phones. But yeah, definitely smartphones have made it even worse. It was bad enough before smartphones. I think also with the fact that you can get signal so many places now, and with the fact you get your emails on your phone, and you get your texts on your phone, you get phone calls, you get Facebook messages and WhatsApps and Instagram and Twitter and everything else just bombarding you with devices, with notifications, you're more prone to get it out of your pocket and look as well. So maybe that's something that we all need to think about in our digital lives, about how we need to switch off sometimes. I'd also say lots of us got this really bad habit, and again it's since smartphones, and really it's probably since the iPod, of having headphones in our ears. And that means that we can't hear anything that's going on around us, and you use your ears, as you know, a lot to move around, to make sure you safely cross roads. I've got little earphones that are hidden, and when I have my hair down, I quite often get asked in Croydon, do you know where it is? And I just go, oh, one moment, I'll take my earphone out and you can ask me the question again. And it's sort of that barrier where we're not communicating as we were beforehand. So yeah, today, what have we learned today? I think I've learned a couple of bits of Spanish and French. I'm going to have to rewatch that part of the video because I'm not very good at foreign languages. I know my bonjour, I know my parlez-vous anglais, and Natasha's going to tell me if I'm saying these wrong. I can count to 10 in French. I failed miserably at Spanish because it was too close to French, but I know a lot of people can speak both languages. So yeah, we've learned a lot of languages, we've learned a little bit of French, we've learned a little bit of Spanish. Please let us know if that's something you like. We're looking to see if we want to start up a language group where we can learn together. It'll be really interesting to get your feedback. And then we've talked a lot about technology, which, as you know, is sort of my area. I know a lot about technology. We've said that smartphones aren't scary. Do not be afraid of a smartphone. There is a smartphone for everyone, whether it be Apple, whether it be Android, or whether it be a specific phone designed for people who are visually impaired. They tend to be on the Android platform rather than the Apple platform, again, because there's such a tight control over what you can do on Apple. And just, it's really good to think that we've been talking about things of accessibility on this and community, because we are a nice big community and we all need to talk about accessibility more. And I hope that you're going to tell me more things you find out about your smart devices, about apps you really like that you think I should have mentioned, about your favourite app, about why you think it's your favourite app, and why I should mention it next time I do this sort of talk, because that would be really good to know. And just let us know what you think. Do you like technology? Do you dislike technology? Do you like languages? Do you dislike languages? Are you good at languages? I know Natasha is very good at languages. It's very much her forte, and I'm not so much.
You're technology.
I'm technology.
There we go.
So I'd say my area, I'd say I want to talk about technology all the time. I don't want to worry about different languages. My menu French, on the other hand, is really good. I can figure out what's on a menu really easily. But I think that's because I can sort of translate it to English in my head and work it out. And next week's session, next week is really exciting. Please do join us again at our new time of 4 o'clock. We're going to start off with Odette, who is our new is our new Information Advice Officer and Working Age Officer, and is going to be called Advice and Development Officer. So we just came up with the name yesterday. So she's the Advice and Development Officer, and she's going to be talking about travel and leisure and how you can access that as a visually impaired person. So please do send any questions you have so that Odette can answer them next week. And then once Odette has given us all this really useful information, we're going to have Synergy Dance joining us again for another session, and they are going to make sure that it is nice and usable for everyone. There's going to be some things where they'll say, if you're in a chair, this is how you do it. If you're standing up, this is how you do it. There will be some more active bits, there'll be some less active bits. And just join in where you can. Don't feel that you have to do all of it. And yeah, that is what is happening next week. I've just had a couple more comments. Oh, Glenn, that is a fantastic question. Can you break a smartphone by using it? If you try really, 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 really hard, you can. I haven't managed it yet, and I'm very prone to breaking things. I then fix them afterwards, but I haven't ever managed to break a smartphone by using it. I've broken a smartphone by dropping it, but that's a different thing. So no, I haven't ever found a way that you can break a smartphone by using it. And Mary, yes, Zoom. We managed not to talk about Zoom today. Zoom is an app where you can video conference with other people no matter where they are in the world. It's how we bring you a lot of the external sessions that aren't in Croydon Vision on these Facebook Lives. So thank you so much for being with us, and I hope you had a really good, fun time today. Join us next week. Remember, it is travel and leisure, and then dance, which is going to be really fun. Synergy Dance are doing another great session with us. Okay, thank you very much, and I am going to leave you now. Please do feel free to comment. We will see any of the comments that you make after the video has finished, and we'll reply to them on Facebook. Okay then?